Hello, and it's time for the Smackdown review here on Wrestling with Regret. The show begins with the dirt sheet and the original opening with the familiar dulcet tones of Howard Finkel narrating it. We see the Miz and Morrison taking shots at not only Otis and Braun Strowman, but Seth Rollins as well, because they talk about how the team of Otis and Strowman makes no sense, and John Morrison says, kind of like Becky Lynch choosing to have a kid with Seth Rollins, I would leave and never show my face again either. They say regarding Braun Strowman that Bray Wyatt had the choice between Strowman and stuffed animals, and he went with stuffed animals. And to keep piling on with that joke, they then show some, rejected Firefly Funhouse puppets that Bray still picked over Braun Strowman, including a sock puppet, a soiled diaper, and a mannequin to resemble Mandy Rose. Braun Strowman shows up in the flesh. He hucks the dirt sheet chairs out of the ring, and then the Miz warns Braun not to mock Bray Wyatt. He brings up his recent history with Bray several months ago at around TLC time, and then Morrison decides to challenge Strowman on behalf of the Miz, much to the Miz's chagrin. And so then after the opening bit, we have our first match. So you've got the Miz versus Braun, and Miz gets a couple of moments to get some heat in early in the match. At one point, Strowman gets thrown to the outside, and Morrison with a great little parkour jumping off the barricade kick to Braun's dome, but Braun ultimately overcomes that. He flattens the Miz with the running power slam, and then after the match is over, Morrison then challenges Braun again this time to a handicap match at Backlash for the Universal Championship. So it'd be 1-on-2 against Miz and Morrison. So they do announce later on the match is made official, and we see a promo from them later in the night, and they're very confident about their abilities because, one, Braun Strowman has a terrible track record at handicap matches, and also because the Miz and Morrison are such a superior team. Hey, hey, ho, ho, Miz and Morrison. I would question the logic of a team of guys who haven't been winning a lot lately suddenly getting a shot at the top title on SmackDown, but of course, as they say, wins and losses don't matter, am I right? An old rivalry is rekindled as AJ Styles takes on Shinsuke Nakamura in the IC title tournament. I hope that for their sake, they're both wearing cups. During AJ's entrance, we hear some very obviously dubbed-in commentary by Michael Cole saying AJ has been traded to SmackDown officially in exchange for future superstars. I hate the language they use when talking about trades because it's always this very generic thing that can't be followed up on. They did the same thing with, Dana Brooke and, not Dana Brooke, Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss during the draft when they were drafted to Raw, and then they went back and they said they were traded for future considerations. And there's more examples that I'm forgetting, but that's what they do, and it really just kind of it really grates on me. And also, apparently now, Styles is back on SmackDown, which I think is a nice welcome change of pace. I don't think he ever got a fair shake on Raw. I felt he always kind of felt out of place because he had so many great moments when his first run on SmackDown. That's where he was a two-time champion and a U.S. champion and whatnot. So I think he's more at home on SmackDown, it feels like. I think he did pretty much all he could do on Raw. And so anyway, good to see him back on SmackDown. And this match was great. There were no dick kicks this time. There was no Kinshasa like in their previous rivalry a couple of years ago. It was actually wrestled fairly clean, and probably the best work I've seen from Shinsuke on SmackDown in quite a while, if I say so myself. I loved AJ's counter from the arm triangle into a Styles clash, and ultimately AJ wins with a phenomenal forearm, and he advances the tournament to face Elias. Backstage, Bayley telling her friend Sasha Banks to stay backstage tonight during her match with Charlotte because she wants to be able to prove to those sheep and those doubters that she can beat Charlotte on her own. We go to that match now, champion versus champion, Bayley versus Flair. Great match here once again. These two have such really good chemistry just from the years they've worked against each other. One thing I liked about both ladies in this matchup here, Charlotte at first, and then I realized how much Bayley was doing it too. They just both had really good trash talk. And I don't know if they're doing it more now because of the empty arena, or it's just more noticeable now because there are no fans to drown out the audio. But yeah, they're both getting really good at the trash talk game in their matches. Very similar to what kind of Kevin Owens was doing. He was kind of a progenitor of that, on the roster before everyone else kind of started joining in, I feel. Like I said, very strong match here. I love the physicality and the trash talking, and the chemistry here was great. Bayley goes for a couple of top rope elbow drops. She does connect on the second try though, and ultimately she beats Charlotte, albeit not clean. She counters a roll up with one of her own, sits on her, and also grabs the ropes. Referee doesn't see it. So Bayley wins. She beats Charlotte on her own like she said she would. Charlotte laughs it off because she's been outsmarted, and of course Charlotte's not allowed to show any weakness ever. But yeah, anyway, good match. Then afterward we see Bayley and Sasha, celebrating in the back, and Bayley goes, "Wait a minute, you didn't think I could beat Charlotte, did you?" And there's a moment, there's a beat, and all of a sudden like, I'm just kidding, I'm just joshing ya. So yeah, more seeds being planted. They make it very obvious. Look at the seeds. We're planting the seeds. Can't you see the seeds? Mixed tag team match up next with a lot lot of personal history behind it as Dolph Ziggler and Sonya Deville take on Otis and Mandy Rose. I've talked before about the picture-in-picture graphics they use for like the ring introductions, and for Sonya Deville, it's former mixed martial artist, former best friend of Mandy. Like, those are the things you need, the big takeaways you need to know. Just the formatting made me laugh. Anyway, Mandy's wearing some Otis-inspired denim gear on this night. That was kind of a cute little touch. Otis, taking it on the outside, takes a big old bump into the steps, but he is able to recover after a while. Mandy is able to hold her own with Sonya, just barely though. Hot tag to Otis. He cleans house. Then the ladies are tagged back in. Sonya's able to hit a knee to the back of Mandy's head to win the matchup, and so Sonya gets another win over Mandy in this feud. Then after the match, Otis is looking over Mandy. Dolph super kicks Otis, and so both the baby faces are down. And so yeah, evil heels. I will say that I like this matchup here. I just, they've made these matches that add to the feud. They all feel different. This one I liked a lot more than like the singles match that Mandy and Sonya had a couple of weeks ago. I was really sour to that match because it was so short and it's kind of like this flat way. But this one felt a lot more satisfying and fulfilling to watch. Jeff Hardy promo backstage. He talks about how important the Intercontinental Championship is to him because it was the first singles title he won, so it'd be a nice full circle moment for him to win it again in this tournament. He says his path to one final blaze of glory runs right through Sheamus. We then get another Forgotten Sons promo. This time it's Steve Cutler talking. He says they've all had their tough times since coming back to America after serving for their country, and if it makes people uncomfortable, it should. Our blood is on your hands, so now it's going to be your blood on our hands. Ooh, threatening. In your main event, the last first round matchup in the Intercontinental title tournament. Lots of beef behind this one as Jeff Hardy takes on Sheamus. Of course, Hardy's been hyped up for weeks and weeks, and Sheamus took exception to all that, saying he's tired of all the second chances that Jeff Hardy has had. And so that's what leads to this matchup here. Jeff is overpowered by Sheamus early on. Sheamus dumps Jeff like on the announce table, then gets right in Michael Cole's face and goes, "You've been putting him over for weeks. What about me? What about Sheamus?" I mean, when you think about it, Sheamus and Raven had the exact same arms out pose, so there's a lot of parallels there. Sheamus is just dominating Hardy for the bulk of the match here, but Jeff is able to have some hope spots here and there, some big flippy moves every once in a while to knock the big man off his feet. He goes for a swanton, but Sheamus puts the knees up. That looks incredibly painful, especially for a man with as many back problems as Jeff has. Sheamus goes to the bro kick, but he misses. Jeff's able to roll Sheamus up and win in kind of an upset, so he wins in his first match back in a long time, and he advances into the tournament, and Sheamus is very upset about this as we fade to black. And we find out that the next round of the tournament action is going to be next week. Elias and AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan and Jeff Hardy. Of those two matchups, who do you think is going to be in the finals of that tournament? Let me know in the comments. My grade for SmackDown this week is an A-. I think the show had a lot of good things going for it. We saw a nice bit of humor with The Miz and Morrison doing their shtick with Braun Strowman, and you had some great wrestling with Styles and Nakamura, as well as Charlotte and Bayley. Had some good storytelling with the mixed tag team match, as well as the Sheamus Jeff Hardy match. Really had a little bit of everything. Like, a lot of things were just clicking on all cylinders on this week's show, so good on them. I really enjoyed this episode. But let me know what you thought about SmackDown this week in the comments section below, and be sure to give it a letter grade by going to the iCard in the corner of your screen. I'm Brian Zane, and I just want to say, let's all be good to each other.